Hey, everybody, I'm Tommy, and you are on the boat. David Booley, good to see you. Mike Bragg, what's happening? Hey, Kristen, Melinda, Supermod, glad you're here. Here's the deal. This is my third show today. Hey, Just Joan, Brock Bandy, I'm glad that you're here. I really am. Hey, honey, glad that you made it. Let's see if I can get this to go up any further. There we go. Welcome, everybody. This is the first time that I'm going into this case with any kind of detail. I don't cover every true crime case. There are some that just don't get my attention, and there are things that I don't cover because for whatever reason they don't resonate. I got to find the stuff interesting, right? It has to be something that kind of gets my attention. This is a case that absolutely has got my attention. This is the story out of Columbus, Ohio. This is the story of Monique and Spencer Tepe. Spencer was a dentist, and he married Monique. Most people didn't know originally that Monique had been married before, but she had been. They got married. Everything was going great. Debbie, good to see you. I'm glad that you caught a live. We'll watch the other two on replay later tonight. So much Tommy and true crime, absolutely loving it. Wow, I'm glad to hear that. This is a good thing. It really is. There's a lot going on in true crime. This case is fascinating, and it's fascinating for a lot of reasons. I'm going to get into all of the details of it. If you don't know exactly what happened on December 30th in Wyland Park, Columbus, Ohio, Spencer Tepe, 37, a dentist, and Monique Tepe, his beautiful wife, 39. They were discovered by a wellness check at 10 a.m. This cat never missed work. He was the kind of person that showed up at work, did his job. He was a dentist. He never didn't show up. So when he didn't, people kind of freaked out, and they tried to get a hold of his wife. And when they couldn't get Monique on the phone, they really started to lose it. They drove over to the house and started to make 911 calls. Hello, Andrew. Glad you're here. Chicka Cherry Cola. Good to see you. They made a lot of calls to 911, a frustratingly large amount of calls to 911. And I get it. When you hear a 911 call and the person talks about, I just got back from the gym and I found this, you usually know that they're involved. These 911 calls were panicky, and they got scared enough where one of them went inside. It's obvious when you listen to the 911 call closely. He claimed to have looked through the window. Not possible. They were found on the second floor, but he went upstairs. He had heard the children, and he went in. He went inside, and he found the bodies. He got the kids out of the house. I believe the dog was also let out as well. This has been clouding stuff up, right? This has made the waters a little bit more muddy because there's all of the conspiracy theories and the people on Reddit and the people that just love to run with this much information and then come up with this unbelievable theory. There's the stuff about this that I find fascinating, right? First of all, there was no forced entry. The murderer got inside the house without breaking in. Now, there's a lot of ways that can happen from a criminal point of view. This person could have knocked on the door, and when they came to the door, he could have put a gun up and said, get inside. I don't think that's likely. People have cell phones. It's really easy to call 911. You don't have to complete the call. And he would have had to get whoever answered the door back upstairs into the bedroom, right? Because they were both killed upstairs in the bedroom. The dentist, Spencer, was shot twice. The woman was shot once. That's kind of worth noting, right? It tends to make people that do this for a living think that this guy was probably the target more than his wife. They must have been loved by many. Yeah, no, they definitely were loved by many. And a lot of people freaked out because, again, this is a guy that doesn't make the kind of mistake to not show up. He was very, very diligent. Kevin Hawthorne, Lakeland, Florida. Glad you're here, brother. Very, very diligent doctor. They freaked out. They went over. They found him. Here's the other thing that I find fascinating. There is apparently... Oh, by the way, it isn't a murder-suicide because they didn't find the gun, right? There was no murder weapon at the scene. So it wasn't a murder-suicide. It was definitely a murder. They also found evidence that leads them to believe that whoever did the shooting made sure that the kids could not see the carnage. We don't know exactly what that is, but it's been leaked out that it was obvious to the people that got there that steps were taken to make sure that the children could not get in to see their dead parents, which is an awfully kind thing for a murderer to do. Someone that doesn't care enough, right, to not kill the kid's parents, but for whatever reason finds it distasteful to allow these kids to see the dead parents in spite of the fact that he just took them away for the rest of their life. So hold on one second. Columbus does have a lot more crime today than it used to. Well, that's kind of sad, isn't it? Now, here's the other thing. This guy worked at a place called Valrose Dental. His wife was a stay-at-home mom, and by all accounts, they had a great marriage. They met online, married December 13th, 2020. That's an important date in my opinion, right? That is an important date in my opinion. December 13th, 2020. That was a private ceremony. That's because 2020 was the COVID stuff. Oh, there's another word you can't say online. The COVID-19 thing was hitting on in 2020. So they had another ceremony January 30th of 2021. That was the celebration. So they were coming up on 5 years together. They had two children. Amelia, who was born in 2021, was 4, and Beckham, who was born in 2024, was age 1 and some change. They had a very family-centered life. The community loved them. These kids are now left without a mom and dad. There's been a GoFundMe page set up, and hold on one second. Sorry, it's my son. More important than YouTube. I'm sorry. So here's an odd thing in my opinion, right? So the person that ends up getting hemmed up on this is a guy named Michael David McKee. He's a 39-year-old vascular surgeon, and he was married. Hold that thought. He was married to Monique 8 years ago and some change, right? The divorce happened. The divorce is a little odd, right? And there's a lot of people making a lot about the divorce papers on this. Number one, they had a restraining order, two-party restraining order. A two-party restraining order is odd. Hey, Kathy, a very odd thing. Normally, somebody goes into court and says, I'm afraid of Tommy Scoville, or I'm afraid of whoever, right? And the judge then says, okay, I will put a temporary, a TRO, or a long-term restraining order that says you're not allowed any contact. You can't get other people to contact them. You can't go within this distance. To have both parties not able to contact each other, you don't get the feeling that this divorce was friendly. Has he been extradited yet? And is there a motive? The motive we're going to be talking about for a very, very long time. He has not been extradited yet. Legally, they got 30 days to do it. I would imagine that they're going to want to get him out of Illinois and back to Ohio quickly. But from a legal standpoint, from the day that he says, I'm not fighting this, which happened yesterday. There was no arraignment yesterday because he's in the wrong state. They have to extradite him back to Ohio for the arraignment. Technically, Ohio has 30 days to come and get him. But he didn't fight the extradition. My gut says they're going to get him in the next day or so because Illinois is not going to want the responsibility of having that fool in their jail. He's not their guy. Very odd to me that a surgeon becomes million murders, that he becomes a murderer, period. Yeah, that's odd that a surgeon and somebody with this guy's skill, right? This was a vascular surgeon. You spend a crap load of time in college, in med school, in doing residencies like a normal, med school person becoming a doctor would have to do. Then you have to do an additional residency. It is a very, very high paying. It's very, you're considered, some of the best, right? This has been a very successful cat. However, he then allegedly drives 400 miles, parks down the street, and goes and kills a woman he divorced 8 years ago. As I said, people are making an awful lot about the divorce papers, and here's why. Because in June of 2025, which is way the hell after the 2017 date of the divorce, which was also in June, something else popped up on the docket. And it said that they were scheduling a hearing for the both of them to come in. It is, I promise you, everyone is speculating on this. It's a screw up because the second that they put it in, they then deleted it. So people are pulling up that original paper or whatever. An order went in, then an order went in to cancel it, and then a delete order went in. And it all went in within a matter of minutes. This was just somebody screwing up. And the way you know this is if you compare the dates of the divorce, they match up exactly to the dates of the new filing. There was no new filing. Whoever was putting it into a computer or doing something else, I promise you this will pan out. And I know this because I married an attorney. And one of the hustles that we used to have was to go down to courthouses and grab any new case that we could. And there are companies out there like Westlaw or like LexisNexis or Lexus or whatever it is. And you can get the new stuff and upload it and they'll pay you to do it because they want every new case, anything with precedence, to be in their digital law library so that people can instantly access this stuff if they need it, right? And these kind of screw-ups happen constantly because a lot of companies switch to better software or switch to new computer systems. And when they do, you have to upload all of these old cases into the new stuff and hit the wrong button, and these kind of things happen. Or you didn't get rid of the first filing and now you're doing it. It pops up a second time. They corrected it instantly. Nobody ever showed up on this. And the order, if you read it carefully, says it is to talk about mutual visitation. They didn't have any kids, right? So all of the different people out there, and there's a bunch of them that are speculating on what this might mean. Perhaps he was doing this just as a way to contact her because she would not answer any of his. That's not it. This was a screw up. It had nothing to do with him. You watch, that will pan out. Johnny Scoville, it's funny that you asked this because I thought to myself, I remember back in the day on Court TV, I remember watching a couple of cases of surgeons that ended up, hey, Lilac Lime, thank you so much. Look at that. 5 people just turned green. I love it when that happens because everybody looks better in green. Come on, tell the truth. Everybody does. So vascular surgeons make big bucks. Over the past year, the average annual salary for vascular surgeon's job was $539K, with the highest paying reaching $700,000 per year, which is pretty close to what I'm making on YouTube now with all the super chats. I can't back that up. It's not even in the ballpark. I'm not even in the neighborhood. However, he went to school for a really long time to do this. I became a criminal. He took a slightly different route to get where he's getting. I started running to do a little math because I remember some surgeons who had cases on Court TV, but it was 20 years ago. So I just went back 5 years and said, how many surgeons in the United States have been convicted of murder, of violent crimes in the last 5 years? And it turns out there was only one. This isn't something that doctors often do, right? It's also incredibly rare for somebody to exact revenge on somebody 8 years after the event that pissed him off. Now, if you've been cyber stalking your ex online the entire time, this guy just had a birthday and the dentist office that he worked at put some pictures up. There was also basically 2 anniversaries coming up at the same time as Christmas. Most people put up a bunch of pictures of their family, and here's his ex-bride. She has a doctor that she's now with. She's happy as hell, which she was not with him, right? She was the one that initiated the divorce. And there are 2 kids there. Maybe he flipped, because here's what the cops say happened. He drove over 410 miles from Rockford, Illinois to kill this woman and her husband. He parked down the street, and you've seen the images of a guy that is walking. They haven't let us know if that's him or not. But what they saw was a car right down the street from the house, right around the time that they knew the murders to have happened. And it disappeared and drove away right after the time that they knew the murders had happened. So they started going to Ring cameras, right? Nest cameras. Everybody that's got something on their door, right, becomes part of a police investigation. Every ATM machine, every 7-Eleven, every library, any place that has a camera, you can now start putting together what happened. Where did this vehicle go? Well, they were able to do this through cameras on the highway, on the freeway. And what happens is this car goes all the way back to Rockford, Illinois, doesn't park where he lives, but down the street. And allegedly, he used his own car, right? This is getting misreported. They're saying that it was a car that could be tied to him. My research said without a shadow of a doubt, he used his own car. Again, that for me is hard to pass the smell test, because if you're smart enough to be a vascular surgeon, you would realize, right, but that car was there. So here's the other thing that really kind of freaked me out. And if we want to go into the guy's history, he went to The Ohio State University. That's where he got his postgraduate degree. It's where he went to med school. Everything he did at The Ohio State University. He's got deep ties to Ohio, to a town right next to where he allegedly whacked his ex-wife and her husband. So this has been a 10-day manhunt, right, before they caught him. This murder took place on December 30th. And this is why the true crime people tend to go nuts. Anytime there is a case like this where you don't know what's happened for a period of time, the imagination of the entire country starts to go wild and people start to look in. It also doesn't hurt that they are a very attractive couple. She's got a smile that lights up an entire room, right? And in every picture, they look like the happiest people that you have ever seen. He is currently locked up He had a brother-in-law. This would be the doctor, right? I mean, the dentist. He had a brother-in-law, and his name is Rob Misla. He told NBC News that the family quickly believed, as soon as this happened, that it was going to be the ex. Right? Why? There's a lot of information we don't have, and we all have to kind of deal with that. That's just one of those things that happens. But there's a bunch of information we don't have. Obviously, there was something else going on. If their first thought was, yeah, that guy that divorced her, right, 8 freaking years ago has got to be the one that did this. Allegedly, according to the brother-in-law, there have been death threats. There have been some weird things between this guy and his wife. I started to look into cases where people delay this long before killing someone. And they do happen. They're particularly rare, but they do happen. There's a case of a guy who at the age of 73 went over to a guy's house, knocked on the door, and shot him dead. Why? Because in high school, while they were in gym class, the guy took a athletic supporter, a jock, and pulled it over the guy's face like it was a gas mask. So this thing that had been pressed against his junk through all of gym class was pulled against his face. He waits 50 some odd years before he decides to go and whack this dude. There are people that for whatever reason fixate their entire life before snapping, but there's always something that sets them off, right? There's always something that causes this to happen. Christmas time, I think, is key. The fact that their first wedding anniversary is on the 13th of December. If you're cyber stalking your ex, this is going to be a tough thing to watch. This is going to be a tough time to watch. But this vascular surgeon made an appearance in court, and there's a lot being made about how ugly his face was, that he looked happy as hell to be there, that he was really seemed satisfied with the work that he had done. Man, oh man, people, I'm not trying to bag on anyone else that's doing this for a living, but how in hell can you read someone's face and say that? It wasn't the behavior panel. I put a decent amount of faith into those guys. These are just YouTubers like me that are convinced that his face gave away something in the courtroom. This is a very, very intelligent guy, right? And I'm not saying that he's got street smarts. I'm not saying he's a good person, but you don't become this type of surgeon by being a dumb bastard. This guy's got some snap. He's got some stuff on the ball. He did not wake up years after he divorced and go kill them. This guy followed her social media and hated her happiness, and he hated his own life. I have no idea, but he looked satisfied in court. I think, and I could be wrong, but to me, he just looked stoic. He just looked like a guy that wasn't going to say much, and he didn't, right? All he said was, I'm not fighting this. He had the ability to fight the extradition. It's a waste of freaking time. He was given a public defender. As we talked about in the Nick Reiner case, they're not going to leave you there without representation. So you may not have your high dollar mouthpiece, and at $500,000 a year, chances are he can afford a decent mouthpiece, right? He can get a good attorney. But he's not going to do that until he gets back to Ohio. So they give him a public defender. The public defender is going to break this down for him. They're going to say, look, you got 30 days to get extradited, but that process ain't going to start. You're not going to be able to get an attorney, hope for bail, any of that stuff until you get back to Ohio. And I've watched this so many times in my life where guys are like, man, I don't want to go back to the state. I got charges in. I'm going to fight this. All it does is prolong the misery. Your best bet is to just go, all right, make it happen, right? Audra in Denver says, I truly don't understand how someone sacrifices so much of their life, time, and effort and money going to school, etc., to throw it away like this. I'm baffled. Here's the thing. There is a problem with people who are wildly intelligent, right? A guy that goes, man, I got through med school. I got great grades all through college. I am absolutely a guy who is smarter than everybody else. There are people that talk all the time about the God complex that a lot of doctors have. One moment. Been having nosebleeds. There's a God complex that a lot of doctors have. By the way, this guy's got 2 pending malpractice lawsuits out of Nevada. Not that that makes a great bit of difference, but he does have, there are some other pressures in his life. One of them has to do with a catheter, not that went, but into somebody's leg. And it doesn't sound like he was the one doing the procedure. It sounds like he was training someone or letting someone else do the procedure. But about 8 inches of that catheter snapped off in someone's leg. And they had to do some surgery to get the thing out. And apparently the guy is pretty pissed off about it. The other one has to do with a convict who was in Nevada. And I've been in that system. And he hurt himself at work. They had to take him to the hospital. And this doctor was one of the guys that worked on it. And unfortunately, this person feels like Mr. McKee didn't give him a fair shake. and it is a civil rights violation. It may be listed as a malpractice lawsuit, but it's technically a civil rights violation. This guy wanted the ability to sort of weigh in. You're not, when you go to the hospital as an inmate, you're not a patient. You're an inmate, right? You're in prison. They happen to have taken you to the hospital, but they're going to do whatever the hell they want to do to you. You lose all kinds of rights when you're in there. From the looks of it, I don't think that Einstein ever combed his hair. His brain was focused on higher level. Yeah, I mean, you make a good point. He didn't care about the day-to-day stuff. This guy apparently was living a fairly decent life. Everything, he wasn't Jake had it out. He wasn't not taking care of himself. Everybody in his building said he's a nice guy, but nobody really seems to know him. 8 years to wait for revenge is a really long time and a long process. My gut says this guy thought he was going to go kill his ex-wife and her husband and get away with it. He talked himself into the fact that he had scoped this place out. He had driven by. He knew what to do. Where it really gets interesting is they have a keypad, a number enter system on their door. And we're not exactly sure how this guy got in. Now, if you put this to critical thinking, they had a wedding in that house. So that code was probably given out to a shitload of people. Sometimes you can call the caterer, or you can call somebody that did whatever. And if you're slick, you might be able to give the person, you like the shirt? Isn't that great? You might be able to give the person enough information to convince him that you're part of the family and you need that code. Hey, I'm at their door. I know you had the code. I'm standing here, right? No, I know her. I was there. You see, blah, blah, blah. The other thing is this. When I got out of prison the last time, my ex had done some identity theft on me. And I ended up with an awful lot of cash getting, I was on the hook for a lot of money. And I wanted to be able to prove that this person did this. So I went to to Gmail, and it took me 4 attempts to get into her Gmail account. Because if you've been married to somebody, if you know somebody well, we are creatures of habits. Some people come up with a new password for everything. The PIN code on my ATM card, I've had since 1986. If you're married to somebody, you may be able to go, you know what? I bet she used her birthday and her grandfather's last name and punch that code in, right? Or she probably used the anniversary of her parents because that was something she used all the time. We get into habits that we don't change, and it makes us susceptible. I was engaged to a surgeon. They don't have much of a life outside the surgical centers. Well, and here's the thing. On their divorce decree, Audra, one of the things that they listed was a money issue. And the reason is this guy wasn't making any money when the two of them were married. He was working his ass off to get through the process of becoming a vascular surgeon, but he hadn't gotten to the payday, right? That just hadn't happened yet. It didn't happen until after the divorce. If this guy already has a bit of a slant, if he feels like he lost the love of his life, she goes and marries a dentist. You see jokes about this. Like if you ever saw The Hangover or anything else, doctors tend to crap on dentists like they're not really a doctor. How dare they call you doctor? You're not a doctor, right? You don't save lives. You drill people's teeth. It might have been a real kick in the junk, right? If all of a sudden, Brock Bandy says that's why they mess with so many nurses. And a lot of them do. I have such a bad memory. My passcode is always the same for everything. That way I won't forget. Okay, just don't tell your ex. I saw online today, no, I don't remember where, that the murdered people had no social media presence, no Facebook, no Instagram, no Twitter. That seems odd. Maybe he saw the birthday postings. I don't think that's the case. When I did the research, they may not have them public. But once again, this guy, I believe we're going to find out this guy stalked her. I don't think that he showed up at that place on December the 30th. This is assuming he did it, right? This is assuming he did it. Of course, he's entering a plea of not guilty. They already said that in court. And I can see why. There's nothing good that comes from this. You're not going to go cut a plea deal. This is a capital murder case. You killed 2 people. In the state of Ohio, that can get you the death penalty. Now, admittedly, the death penalty is another one of those states that currently has a moratorium on that. That doesn't mean they're never going to kill anybody again. A lot of times these moratoriums are based on things that have nothing to do with morals or ethics or values or any of that garbage. They may say, we don't believe that the 4 medicines they use for lethal injection are humane. I happen to agree with them. The first one that they put into you is going to paralyze your lungs. Those guys don't go out easy. They suffocate. For real. That's what happens. So it has been deemed cruel and unusual punishment in a lot of places. But there are places in the U.S. that are now going back to firing squad. If they start to use something that is considered less cruel and unusual punishment, then they'll start killing people again. And if you get put on death row, it might be 10 or 15 years before they lift the moratorium. You're still going to be driving toward that date. You're still going to go through the automatic appeal processes. You're still going to go through all of the things that a person would go through as if they had a date from day one. So that's on the table. Caroline in Canada, I hope you're doing all right. Glad you're here. That's on the table. This is not the kind of deal that he's going to hire an attorney to cut himself a great deal. He's never getting out of prison on this, ever, right? In theory, he could get 25 to life. He'd be eligible for parole in 25 years, but there are 2, right, murders. Judges don't like running those concurrently. They like going bow-legged. Right? They like 225s running wild. That's what the convicts say. You'll get 25 years, and when that sentence up, you're starting the next 25 years. He's 39 currently, right? Call it 40 plus 50 years. Boy, you'd have to be in really good shape to get out. You left him because he had severe bipolar disorder and refused to take his meds. He lost his medical license. My goodness, what a horrible thing to happen to a surgeon. The simple fact that the family immediately thought it was the ex kind of seems that he was still harassing or at the very least annoying them in some form. Bingo. Bingo. Now, this hasn't been released out to the world, right? We don't know much beyond the fact that the family, especially the brother-in-law, this Misfa guy, said, no, we thought from Jump Street it might be him. I think we're going to find out a lot about this case as it moves on. Hey, Lacey Silver, good to see you. Anne-Marie from Canada. These people think they are untouchable. You know what? There's something to that. This is a dude who obviously puts an awful lot of stock into who he is, right? He was going to be smart enough to get away with this. Pay attention. Would-be killers and criminals. Everything in the United States is on film. You're not going to get away with anything. New cars, you know how you get in there and you say, hey, OnStar, you know what OnStar is? It's a cell phone built into your car, right? If you have any kind of a computer system in your car, it's pinging off of towers the same way that your phone is. They're going to be able to put a digital footprint on this guy that is absolutely bulletproof. They're going to put a digital footprint on this guy that tells you where he stopped to take a leak. It's amazing what they can get out of cars and out of phones. The brother's ex cheated on him. They divorced. Even though he remarried, he never got over it. Would rake the ex over the coals again and again to anybody that would listen. It was so cringe. It's ugly. Look at you looking good in green. Thank you, Anne from Canada. Everybody looks better in green. Do they not? Did she have a restraining order on him? They had a restraining order, a joint restraining order that was part of the divorce settlement. Both of them were not supposed to contact the other. Now, they listed irreconcilable differences. They also listed cash as one of the issues. It was a 55-page divorce settlement. There was like a $210,000 worth of a house or something that went to him. She took the engagement rings, or they split up the engagement and the wedding ring or something along those lines. And it says actually in the filing, she paid for the engagement ring, which, I don't know. It's not the end of the world. Seemed odd to me, but not the end of the world. Is the defendant married or has he been? He was married to Monique, the person that was shot on December the 30th. No other marriages that I could find. And as far as criminal record goes, there isn't one. He's had 4 speeding tickets that I was able to find. None of them are, it wasn't like he was doing 90 and a 25. There was nothing weird in this guy's past except the 2 cases of malpractice, both of which are out of Nevada, both of which are pending. Also, he hasn't been back to Nevada in so long that his license there expired. Like, you have to continue to refile those every year. But he has been working successfully in Rockford. Bought him a beautiful condominium that in the Lincoln Park part of the city, overlooking the water. It's a great place. I went on Zillow and looked it up. He's got nice digs, man. He's got really nice digs. Zillow puts it at about $500,000. Zillow can be off, right? And you don't know what they put into it. If you've got Viking cookware and they don't really give you a great breakdown of everything that's inside, but he He could have spent $750. Whatever it is, it's a nice place. It's a beautiful building. And most of the people in that building are fairly successful. This guy looks like he's got everything in life. But he also apparently had a really serious grudge, if this is him. And if it's not, it's a pretty damn odd coincidence that this fool was right down the street from his ex-wife's house the night that she gets whacked, right? That's weird. And to me, there's something very telling about the fact that he goes in there and shoots the dude that stole his wife twice, but shoots his wife once. And takes the time to make sure the kids aren't going to see that. You know, the whole Hippocratic Oath thing, do no harm. It's fascinating that this guy's a doctor. I don't, David Booley. I do not. And I'll tell you something. I don't think anybody gets away with murder anymore. I don't. If you live in the sticks, you might be able to get away with it. But you know, when people say I'm gonna commit the perfect murder, every jackass that says that gets caught. Brian Koberger wanted to commit the perfect murder, right? You can't commit the perfect murder. We live in a day and age where you are on camera at all times. If you're carrying a cell phone, it is literally like it is following everywhere you go. Every time you go by a new tower, it pings off it. And there's a timestamp, there's everything else. So when a guy says, well, I was at home the entire time, they go, yeah, well, your phone wasn't, right? Your phone was right down the street. Now, allegedly, this guy may have had a burner phone with him. One of the other options that people have been bringing up, and I don't know whether or not this is going to hold any water either, because it's not really my wheelhouse, but a lot of theories out there are that the guy may have been able to hack into her phone. Once again, I could probably hack into my ex-wife's phone because she doesn't change any passwords. If there's a way to do it from a distance, I could probably do it. And if you could probably get to all of those passwords. They usually are stored inside a phone. Could be the stress of the two pending malpractice suits, right? Pushed him over the edge, and he blames the ex for his life falling apart. And if you're stalking the ex, she looks like she is in bliss, and so does her husband. These two look like, and I know, right? The pictures you see of people, no one posts pictures of them like this. Man, she's a bitch, right? Every picture is usually people trying to put their best foot forward, right? I am so happy. But the smile on this woman's face, the two of them look to genuinely love each other. They got two kids. She's a stay-at-home mom. He's making a very decent living. They have a brand new townhome, or new to them. This just looks like they had everything. If you're really pissed off that you lost somebody, the idea that they might have everything could be enough to push you over the edge. Add to it, right? Because this is the lifeboat. Everybody knows this. This is just really, really a bad time of year for people in pain, right? The holiday seasons suck. If this guy's at home doing Christmas by himself and he's driving by the house and he's seeing decorations and he's seeing everybody happy. Now, did he do that? We don't know, right? We don't. And very often, yeah, Brian Koberger scares you. Here's the thing about Brian Koberger. Brian Koberger is showing just how tough he is right now in prison. He doesn't leave his cell. He doesn't go outside. He drops what they call kites every day, telling the cops that he's terrified of the people next to him. He tells on the cops. He tells on other inmates. The guy in cell 7 is keeping me up by yelling this, this, and this. Brian Koberger isn't hard. He snuck in and attacked people while they were, they were at a vulnerable time. He's not a tough dude. I'm sorry, I was going to say something terrible. But he's not a tough guy. He isn't. And he's not a guy you'd have to be afraid of. What he did was heinous, right? But a lot of times heinous crimes are committed by people that literally couldn't fight their way out of a paper bag. Dang, Tommy, now if somebody breaks into your ex's phone, she will use that statement to blame you, unless she's a quiet, sweet lawyer. Oh, yeah. All lawyers are quiet and sweet. She's a fire-breathing dragon. I'm kidding. She's a very nice person. Yeah. He's sitting in prison. I wouldn't worry about it, Audra in Denver. I don't think he's getting out. Not only is he not getting out, but he is in real serious trouble. That's right, Brock Bandy. He's a female dog. He is. And if there's a how-to list, right, of things not to do when you go to prison, he has hit every single one of them in the first 5 months he's been in there. He's told on cops. He's told on inmates. He complains about food. I got news for you. Eat the freaking food and shut up. You're never going to complain about food and then get better food. They have a way of retaliating against people that write kites to complain. He said his bananas weren't, he wasn't getting bananas that were good. They were all dented. Are you woofing me? You should see how they unload stuff on a dock at prison. They're throwing boxes like this. You're not getting fruit that looks good. Welcome to prison. You know what I mean? You wanted a really nice breakfast, stay at home. This seems like a crime of passion, jealousy fueled it. This is, without a shadow of a doubt, if this guy did it. And I'm putting that out there. If this guy did it. And if you're going, how the hell could he not have done it, Tommy, right? His car was there. What if he's just a stalker, right? I got a story for you that's funny as hell. It's a true story. I went in to rob a bank, right? It was one of my former vocations. By the way, hit the subscriber button if you would, and then hit that thumbs up thing. I'm coming out of pocket and talking about bank robbery, right? Besides, I'm a YouTuber. Hit that subscribe button. You will thank me later. I go into a bank to rob it, and I got prosthetic stuff on. I got a fake goatee at the time. I had a wig that was taped down. I'm doing everything I can to not look like me. And I go walking into the bank. Normally, I don't go into a bank if there's somebody already in it. I wait outside for a long time. You give it 10, 15 minutes because nobody stays that long in an American bank. In Ecuador, it takes you half an hour to do anything. But in America, no one stays in that long, right? So I go in, and there is a guy in there. So I go up, and I start filling out like a deposit slip. And I'm carrying a FedEx pouch because I'm going to have them put the money on the counter, and I'm going to put it in the FedEx pouch. As I walk in, swear to you, right out of Tommy Boy, the jerk off that's in there goes, all right, listen up. This is only going to take a second. I went, you got to be kidding me. I walked into a bank to rob it, and some other ass was robbing the bank and not doing a particularly good job at it, right? Now I'm stuck hanging out waiting for the police to come so I can give them a statement. This is an absolute nightmare. This dude could have just been stalking his wife. I mean, is it a 1 in a million chance? It is. But what if he was there just to stalk her? What if he's one of those guys that just is a stalker and he was down the street? By the way, this is a national stalking awareness month, I believe. And it's scary stuff. It really is. I've been stalked. It's a horrendous feeling to think that someone is just out looking at you, right? It's horrible. But there's an outside chance that this guy didn't whack her. Are we going to see stuff from the inside of the car? Allegedly, there was evidence in the car, but we don't know what the hell it is. And allegedly doesn't carry a whole lot of weight, right? I've done a lot of true crime. And you can run with allegedly, and the next thing you freaking know, you're reporting stuff that didn't happen. He looks like he's on steroids. Might explain the snapping called roid rage. Yeah, here's the thing on that. Hi from where? North Carolina? Nice. North Kakalaki. I'm not sure he looks like he's on steroids. Right? And no disrespect to anybody who has that opinion. But if you work out, right, and you're in your 30s, you still got a decent amount of testosterone in your body, and you're going to bulk up. Now, might he be taking some testosterone, right? Starting TRT early. A lot of doctors do that. They start testosterone replacement therapy. But in the pure sense of the word, the stuff that people call juice or gear, I mean, he's not doing trembling. He's not doing any of the steroids that more than likely are really going to elevate your anger levels. And a lot of the stuff that they say about roid rage, I mean, it happens. It's not as widespread as people think. Most people think if you do steroids, you're just going to start smacking people in the head, right? But that's not always the case. Oh my God, what are the odds? I've been watching you for 2 years or more and never heard that story. Yeah, I have a couple of really funny bank robbery stories. I've done them on older shows before. I had another one that's just real quick because this is funny. I got pulled over by a cop after robbing a bank, and I had already pulled the wig off. So I had 3 pieces of double-sided tape that holds the wig on. I had pulled off the prosthetic goatee. So I had what's called spirit gum, which is what you put it on with, and your face just shines like a donut, right? You're just glossy. I had a microwave oven sitting on the passenger seat of the car. Doesn't matter why, but it's part of the whole process. And I had a flathead screwdriver jammed into the ignition of the car that I was driving because it wasn't mine, right? And all of a sudden, the lights are behind me, and my foot is going like brake, gas, brake, gas. I've never been a rabbit. I don't run. I pull over, you got me, and you just sort of deal with it. So I pull over, and this guy, I'm waiting for this. I'm waiting for, the guy call back up and have his pistol up on the door, and he just comes walking up like Barney Fife, like there's just nothing going on. He was an overweight cop, and he walked up to the door and said, hey, do you know why I pulled you over? And I got a microwave on the front seat, which has a bunch of money in it. And there's a wig on the floor. I mean, I'm a bust. All you got to do is look in the car. I went, no, I don't. I was trying to figure that out. And he goes, your gas cap is open. I don't mean the door. Like the cap itself is off. We were in a very hot state. You could probably guess which one. But I was in a very, very hot state. And he goes, with as hot as it is out right now, it's like 110. He's like, you're probably losing a half a gallon an hour. I went, wow, thank you. He goes, just come out and shut it and you can get on your way. Not give me your license, your registration, your proof of insurance, any of that. My career ends right there. But every once in a while you get lucky, right? Probably would have been better if I got caught that day, actually. If you are in your right mind, why would you stalk your ex? Oh, I don't think anybody that stalks is in their right mind, right? At all. That is absolutely, in my opinion, that's the fruit of mental illness. Would you think that would make them love you again? Has he been tested for drugs? I mean, he was a smart man. That doesn't make sense. Well, he can write himself prescriptions too. There are a lot of doctors, especially as they first get in, that get fascinated with all the drugs they learn about. And I've known plenty of doctors that did plenty of dope, right? So I would say there's a decent chance that they're going to, the microwave. And look, if I do this wrong, everyone's going to report it. There are devices inside banks that run on electronics as a way to track you, right? Microwaves and electronics don't get along. So if you just microwave all the money, so you put an inverter in and there you go. You can't do that anymore anyway. All of that stuff has been changed. I'm not telling you how to rob a bank. This was a long time ago. You can't get away with robbing a bank anymore either. It just doesn't happen. They've gotten way too good at it. Honestly, way too good at it. And they don't put any money in the drawers anymore either. It used to be, well, again, if I do this, I'm telling you how to rob a bank. That wouldn't be a really good idea. So we'll just leave it at, trust me, you can't get away with it anymore. Surgeons are commonly aggressive from an RN. Oh, there you go. See, we have an expert here. This is someone that spent a lot of time around surgeons. Registered nurse here says, surgeons are commonly aggressive. 35 years in the intensive care unit. I know a lot of women that have horror stories about doctors that just thought because that person was a nurse in there that they could basically harass or assault her as part of the perks of being a doctor. I've heard that story, sadly, from a lot of people. Obviously not all of them, right? Not all of them. No more getting away with robbing banks. Dang it. We used to be a proper country. I know, right? I mean, it's gotten bad. You can't even rob a bank anymore. Honestly, you wouldn't want to anyway. You know, I had a friend once that said, you know, there aren't any retirement homes for bank robbers. And I said, we're in one, genius. Bank robbers usually retire to federal prisons. It's a federal offense to rob a bank. I had a doctor who had been busted 3 times for writing his employees' prescriptions that were going to him. Great job, Dr. Morgan. Now, Tommy Bird would never use the doctor's real name. I'm sure he made that up. His real name's probably Morgan. So, you know, occasionally, if you're going to do that, you can always use, we'll just call him Morgan kind of a thing. Look, there have been so many doctors over the years that have been busted for this. One of the doctors that came up with the concept of hypoism, which is a kind of a controversial thing that certain people believe as it relates to sobriety. And he was a surgeon, and he got busted for shooting dope before going into surgery. He had a syringe full of Dilaudid, and he was shooting up, and he had a brand new nurse that said, "What the hell are you doing?" But he had been doing it for 7 years. Everybody used to watch him on the, everyone on his crew used to watch him do it. So he was like, "I'm getting ready for surgery." Well, this person who was brand new reported him that day. And he had to go in front of a board, and they gave him a probation period. He immediately went out and wrote himself prescriptions for a bunch of dope, and they caught him for it. And then he got a longer suspension, and he could no longer write prescriptions. So he went and stole a prescription pad from one of his friends who was a doctor. This guy had gone to Harvard. He was wildly educated. But drugs are drugs. I remember that guy, Dunk, was a surgeon that seemed purposely committed malpractice. There was a podcast about him. I don't know that. And that's frustrating. I hate crime I don't know about. Hold on 1 second. However, in the last 5 years, only 2 surgeons have been charged with murder. One was an oral surgeon. That dude was convicted. The other beat the case, right? Sometimes they take people that aren't guilty. That does happen from time to time, right? Here's the other thing that's kind of interesting about this case. Right now, they have him on charges that really don't mean anything. Because in the state of Ohio, you have to convene a grand jury. It's like a federal system. You just can't write out a warrant. They're going to have to go in front of a grand jury, and they're going to have to present evidence to the grand jury to get this cat indicted. They may drag their feet a little bit on the extradition process because they would like to be able to have that time to play with. It sounds to me, though, that they've got a pretty good digital footprint of what this guy did. They were able to find the car, they were able to track it to him, and they were able to arrest him. Granted, it took 10 days. But to me, that's not awful. I wish. I came a little after that. I didn't run in with guns and say, stick your hands up and all that. I just quietly went in and very politely asked them for all of the cash. I wasn't trying to get out of there with 400 grand. If I was lucky, I could get about 18,000. That was usually about considered a good haul. And then one time, for reasons I will never understand, they just kept putting $10,000 stacks of $100 bills out there. To honestly, no idea why. But as it turns out, I walked with 70 and some change. The you dirty rat. 10 days was pretty quick, I think. You know what? It's reasonable. However, we're true crime people. So 10 days means there's a psycho that just killed 2 people and he's out there. If you remember during the Brian Koberger saga, and that was a case I didn't cover. Honestly, I was too disturbed by it, if you want to know the truth. And I don't mean, I just didn't want to cover the details of what happened to these people. When they're really young, it's hard for me to wrap my brain around. People always say, well, they had their whole life in front of them. You never hear somebody go, yeah, she was 17 and got killed, and she didn't have much of a life in front of her. Of course they have their whole life in front of them, right? But when they're in college and they're doing well and they're beautiful, there were so many pictures of those 4 people that I was really disturbed by that case. This is going to be interesting to find out. A drug is a drug is a drug. Wonder if this guy was on something. You know what? This, again, we get back to stuff that goes, as human beings, we kind of look for logic, right? I was glued to the Idaho 4 case. A lot of people were. And I followed it. I just didn't want to come on here and talk about it. I didn't want people asking questions that I have to get into how to, that just was disturbing to me. Tommy, is this the doctor that performed back surgeries while completely stoned? He even paralyzed his best friend. No, but I know who you're talking about. No, this was many, many years ago. And the guy went to prison, did his sentence, and he wrote a book. And he said, I'm not stupid. Why do I keep doing this? And he talked about how the part of your brain that craves drugs is literally it's in the same part of your brain that keeps you breathing, that keeps your heart pumping. So for people who are addicted to opiates, quitting is like almost trying to get yourself to stop something that is just part of your nature. Now, I don't buy into it, but it's a fascinating theory. If his DNA is on the spent cartridges cases, he's toast. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And you would like to believe, right, if this guy is that freaking intelligent, that maybe, hey, New Zealand, good to see you again. Glad that you're here. Happy New Year. Hey, everybody, if you haven't hit that subscribe button, do it, or I'll find you. Right? You don't want me doing that. So ex-convict. Yeah, Caroline, that's who Laura Lou met. Yeah, this guy, again, he didn't really do any. He was actually very successful the entire time that he was working, high or not. And I remember reading this in prison with a friend of mine who was also fighting really hard to get sober off of the same substance I was. And we were sitting at lunch one day, and he goes, how far into that book are you? And I said, it's 3/4 of the way through it or whatever. He goes, if your doctor was a junkie, wouldn't you want him shooting up before he went in and worked on you? He said, you wouldn't want him dope sick. He's like, honestly, I wasn't offended by that. But you would have to be somebody that did that substance every day for 20 or 30 years to understand that for most junkies, and I'm not trying to use a pejorative, I'm talking about myself. For most junkies, if you've been on the dope for 20 years, you're not getting high anymore. All you're really trying to do is stop from getting sick. I do great hair once drunk as a skunk with my friends on a Sunday. Since I owned the shop, I didn't think I could get in trouble. Wow. You hear that, everybody? If you happen to be in Denver, there's a great shop you might want to go to. Don't catch it on a Sunday, apparently. 3 shows in one day. Wow. Thank you for Melbourne, Australia. Love Australia. Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're here. Yeah, they're talking about this, right? That he's a single child. He was adopted. Maybe he has abandonment issues. This is one of those things, and we do this all the time, and there's nothing wrong with it, by the way. This is the joy of watching and getting into true crime. It is the ability, right, to come up with theories and weigh in on stuff. We all play these armchair detectives, right? But this is this is an interesting thing, right? If he feels abandonment issues. Now, I have an adopted son. I have a sister that was adopted. They don't seem to have any abandonment issues. This guy, by all accounts, this was a family that took very good care of him, right? He was able to graduate from the Ohio State University not once but twice and go on to be a very well-respected surgeon. I mean, maybe when she left him, but by all accounts, they weren't getting along. Everybody says that this was a marriage that was kind of doomed from Jump Street. So I don't know, maybe it was a kick to the ego. Maybe the guy had never had anybody put a boundary up on him. There's a lot that will end up coming out as we a great mullet while drunk. Yeah, you know what? If I still had hair, I would rock the Kentucky waterfall. I had a mullet. I'll find the picture of me and Johnny Scoville that will blow your mind. Like I had a mullet that rivaled what's his name? Hannah Montana's old man. What was his name? That is dead right. Don't get high anymore. Just prescribed medication to keep us happy and sane. Yeah, I mean, honestly, the high stops really early on in the game. And then you're fighting off being sick. And going from feeling like you're going to die to having that feeling go away becomes the high. Doesn't make a lot of sense. Look, I did it for 30 years. It doesn't make any sense to me. I feel like he threw the dog a steak or a bone. Yeah, there's a lot that's been made of why the dog wouldn't be barking. Billy Ray Cyrus, thank you, Henry. Grandma Amy, yeah, Billy Ray Cyrus. Here's the deal. That's Steph, right? Yeah. Here's the deal, Steph. That very well could be the case. There also could be, well, I have more than one kid, Audra. This also could be one of those situations where you ever have a dog that lives next to you, right? When we first moved into the penthouse, there was a guy that lived below us. And this dog barked so often that never would have done anything to me. Like I didn't even raise an eyebrow. It's like car alarms that go off all of the time, right? Also keep in mind, yeah, maybe he crated the pup or maybe he put the pup and the kids in a room. If you go up the stairs quickly, right? You go in there, the dog starts barking, whatever. You just go in and pop before anybody gets to their cell phone. I mean, we're going to find out a lot more as we get an idea of what happened at that crime scene. But guns are a lot less personal than knives. You don't really have to get up on top of somebody to shoot them. And if you're at all skilled with a handgun, 25 feet's nothing. You're absolutely going to hit center mass at 25 feet. He could have snuck up to the top of the stairs. And there are dogs that bark constantly. And there are dogs that actually get freaked out. I can tell you a really funny story about the biggest dog you ever saw in your life that I startled and thought, I'm going to get eaten, right? This was a Rottweiler that probably was 160 pounds. It was absolutely massive, right? And I was in a place that I wasn't supposed to be in. I was breaking the law in another country, oddly enough. But I broke into this guy's house and the dog looked at me like, hey, what's up? And then put his face back down on the floor while my heart was literally stopping. I thought, I'm about to get eaten. My husband used to feed our neighbor's vicious dog over the fence and he loved him. I love that. They call my grandsons a baseball cut. I'd have to see the baseball cut. Oh, you're talking about the Kentucky waterfall. Oh, yeah, baseball players still rock mullets. Those are the only people left on planet Earth that can rock a mullet and not look silly. Professional baseball players do it all the time. However, don't let him church it up. It's a mullet. You can call it anything you want, right? But a rose by any other name still looks like a mullet. Did he lock the kids in their bedrooms to keep them from coming out? The 4-year-old could certainly walk, possibly the 1-year-old. Yeah, you know, when Spanx Calhoun was a kid, I would put up those, like you snap them in place to make sure a kid doesn't go over the stairs or whatever. We had an apartment that was upstairs and downstairs when he was a baby. And I can't remember what they're called, but they're like a little barrier. It's like a fence, a safety fence for kids. And you'd push it down and it would snap into the walls. And he couldn't crawl over the top. Oh, you forgot NASCAR. You're right, Audra in Denver. I stand corrected. This is great. That's the proper answer. I had a shit fit. I don't blame you. And hockey players, you know what? All right, so a lot of people can yeah, Babygate. Thank you, Grandma. Now everybody says it. Now I'm feeling stupid. Yeah, Babygates. Perhaps he put a Babygate in place. These kids slept on the second floor anyway. You would assume there was already a Babygate. Maybe he did something extra. Maybe he pulled the door shut. Whatever it is being fairly widely reported that they went out of right? If it's him, whoever the murderer was went out of their way to make sure the kids wouldn't see the parents dead, which is awfully kind. Taking the parents off the planet so that they're orphaned, not so kind. There is a GoFundMe that's set up. If you feel like you want to contribute to that, that would probably be a great thing. There's about $200,000 that's already been raised for the kids. Unfortunately, if 9 million gets raised for the kids, they're never going to see their mother and father again. And if this thoracic surgeon is the guy that did this, not only do I hope he spends the rest of his life in prison, but I hope he has a really bad time. Sadly, people, to tell you the honest to God's truth, he's not going to have a bad time in prison. He's not small. He's a murderer. And as crazy as it sounds, that's considered an honorable crime in prison. And at any time that sounds really stupid to anybody, what you should think of is an inmate in there that goes like this. Could I snap and do that? Could I make a bad decision and do that? Right? So like molesting a kid, there's nobody in there going, yeah, if I got drunk, no one's doing that. Right? Raping a girl, no. Right? Those are all dishonorable crimes. But everyone in there at one time or another has thought, boy, I'd like to kill that person. And in prison, you get a lot of leeway on that. One of the other things is when you're a doctor in prison, a lot of people would rather come talk to you than go to a doctor. And I've been in prison with doctors. There were two guys on a yard I was at that were in there for running pill mills, right? For just writing thousands of prescriptions for OxyContin a day and getting rich off it. And they got long prison sentences. If a guy gets stabbed or cut, they'll have him stitch him up so that the guy doesn't have to go down to medical, because you go down to medical and now they got to fill out paperwork and people get shipped and guys go to the hole. So doctors are a valuable commodity inside. Crazy but true. My gosh, what a weird dichotomy of a thought process. Murder your parents, but I don't want you to see them. I mean, it is, right? And I think that it's a very interesting 3:52 a.m. Is that what they're estimating as the time of death? Hold on one sec. So if they're having the time of death at exactly 3:52, it's got to make you wonder, is that because somebody heard gunshots? Is it because somebody has one of those Fitbits or one of those little rings or any of those things? Because bang, that first one goes off, you're going to see the blood pressure go through the roof. And we live in such a modern world these days that if somebody happens to be wearing one of those devices, it's literally going to tell you to the second when that murder took place. Because this was not, the use of a club, right? No one was getting bludgeoned to death. No one was getting stabbed. They're going to die in very quick succession of one another. But this is the stuff to follow. If this is why I want to watch this case, because we can't know this much of it. We can't know this much of it. There's a massive story we have absolutely no insight to, because the brother-in-law, out of 330 million people in the United States, if your first thought was, oh my God, right? My sister-in-law just passed, it's her ex-husband. That's bizarre to me. It's very much like the Nick Reiner case, right? The sister walks in, sees the dad dead, goes, it's my brother. If you think that, then there's a story we ain't heard, right? A big one. Could a doctor work in the infirmary as a job? Absolutely not. He could not. But he can work in the unit as a doctor, and he can make, a book of stamps every time he helps somebody. Yes, I did. And as of right now, there is literally nothing on this cat's childhood other than the fact that he excelled at school and there doesn't seem to be a lot of pissed off women around. He was adopted. Absolutely, that is the truth. But he seems to have had a very stable upbringing. And, I mean, this may sound crazy, right? But most of the time, when somebody succeeds wildly at everything they do, we tend to believe that they probably weren't molested. They probably weren't beat, because those kind of things manifest themselves in the early teens. Like if you were abused as a kid, normally at 13, 14, 15, you're going to start rebelling, acting out, getting bad things tend to happen. This guy seems to have done everything right? No arrests, just speeding tickets, right up until allegedly on the 30th of December, right? The day before New Year's Eve, he just decides, I'm going to go whack my ex-wife. Now, there's also a lot of that's exactly right. The family packed her up and moved her out while he was away. That is a stone cold fact. And it is one of those things that happens very often when there is abuse. However, there isn't any physical abuse listed in the 55-page divorce decree. And you would maybe assume that he was. He wasn't listed in his mom's obituary. Okay. Could someone please help me where and when this happened? Sure, absolutely. This happened in Columbus, Ohio, right? And it happened on the 30th of December. Hold on one second. Yeah, so apparently he has deep ties within Ohio, or his family did. So this happened on the 30th of December, and there was a manhunt going on for him until just a couple of days ago, when they figured out that it was or they arrested. We don't know yet. People do get found not guilty, right? These kind of things do happen. But it was in a place called Wyland Park, Columbus, Ohio. 2 victims, Spencer and Monique Tepe. Spencer was 37. Monique is 39. It was discovered at 10 o'clock in the morning on a wellness check. Bodies were upstairs, gunshot wounds. Monique took 1 in the chest. Spencer took 2 in the chest. Again, it leads you to believe that the person that did this has probably got a little bit of training with a handgun, right? I truly believe that people can have a lovely childhood and a pretty nice life and start obsessing themselves into craziness. Absolutely. You don't have to have massive trauma in your childhood to be a jerk. You know, there are people that were raised by normal parents. Everything seemed great, and then they go off the deep end. Sometimes it's just a chemical imbalance. Sometimes it's bad wiring. And sometimes, I know this isn't a popular opinion, but there are people on this planet that are just evil. I've met some of them, and they're just evil. They thrive in it. They like it. They're evil people. Where's the bipolar and not taking his meds come from? Regardless of the fact that he was a surgeon. No. I'm sorry, Anne-Marie. We were talking about a different, that was somebody in my chat, Audra from Denver, who said she dated a surgeon. That's who we were talking about. Oh, not long ago, not even a fortnight has gone by. I love it when someone says fortnight. I'm not talking about a video game. I think it's such a great expression. Shakespeare was damn fond of it. This is a case that I want to follow because the really juicy stuff hasn't come out. And there are theories all over the place. There are videos already being made that said these two had something going on. That's how he knew the code for the door. This was a love triangle situation. That is a mother-loving jump, people. That is a massive jump. There is literally nothing out there to put any stock and trade in at all that there was a love triangle. Am I saying it didn't happen? I'm saying it can't be proven, and they shouldn't be running with it if there's absolutely nothing to back that up. There just isn't. And it's kind of disrespectful to take a woman that has just been shot and turn her into an adulteress. There's just nothing to back that up. In fact, what makes this case fascinating is twofold. One is there just doesn't seem to be a motive that makes sense, right? It is really odd for somebody to wait 8 years before exacting revenge. And revenge for what, right? A divorce? I mean, this is America. Half of every marriage ends in divorces. Hi, everyone on the love boat. So late tonight. Family night for me. Oh, what a great reason to be late, Susan Nelson. That is a great reason to be late. You miss Reese not popping in tonight? Don't rule her out. Reese has been known to pop in late. She's also a lurker from time to time. My girl likes to lurk. I'm telling you. Did this doc marry a man after the divorce, or was that a different McKee? That's a different McKee. This guy did not marry a man after. There is nobody else that he married after. The only marriage that I could find for him was Monique. Time heals, but not in this case. You know what, SoCal friend? I mean, maybe, right? Maybe. I am opening up this much of a door that this ain't the guy that did it. There is still a chance he's just a stalker. 410 miles to drive and go kill a woman you were married to for less than 2 years, 8 years ago. Hey, Miss Weedy Poo, good to see you. I'm glad that you are here. That to me is tough on the smell test. I'm not saying that it can't happen, but you start looking at running the odds, right? Like you're a bookmaker, like you're running the odds. In the last 5 years in the United States of America, only one surgeon has been convicted of murder. Surgeons don't normally piss away all the time they spent in med school by going to risk something like this and going that route, right? So that right there makes this really, really rare. The fact that this is delayed gratification revenge. He was pissed 8 years ago about this divorce, and he's waited 8 years to get the payback. Now, it happens. It does. It's just kind of rare. And if it did happen, it's got to be more than some social media posts showing this dude having a birthday at his dentist office, right? There's got to be something. He's stalking her. He's doing something. Or maybe they have been in communication. Doesn't mean that they were sleeping together or anything else, but maybe he's been reaching out because the brother-in-law says there were death threats. Did that mean there were death threats 8 years ago? Is that why they have a dual restraining order? Or is there something going on that we don't know about? And this case is going to be fascinating for that reason. The other reason is this guy can afford a decent attorney, right? And I promise you, he's going to go with the I didn't do this defense. You don't even have to walk across the street. A lot of the places that do the weddings also do divorces or annulments. As the kids grow up, they might be able to learn to handle the knowledge of what happened. But I don't think they will ever forget it happened. And they're never going to be the same. Todd, what's happening, my brother? Good to see you. Just Joan, they're never going to be the same. They're never going to be the same, ever. You know, this is one of those things that just leaves such a scar. You're not going to remember your parents. You're not going to remember what they were like. I'm sure that there's video and stuff from the wedding and all of that. But this is just tough. Well, there are a lot of channels that are reporting this. There's no way to document that yet, right? There's nobody that came out and said, yes, I gave him a video or I was sitting in a room with him when he watched it. This is Alan Jackson is now available. Grandma Amy, that's a hell of a comment. Alan Jackson just freed up his calendar. You know what? I've heard that too, but I can't chase it down. Like there's no police report. There is nothing anywhere to document that. It's a hell of a theory though, right? There is a very extensive video of the wedding, apparently very professionally done. And there have been some theories since that was online that he's been binging on it. But I'm not sure whether or not we can put any stock in that yet, right? But it's logical to beat shit, right? Especially we're coming up on the holidays. And I'm telling you, I've spent the last 10 years of my life trying to help people get sober. The holidays wreck people, right? The holidays are horrible because everyone's supposed to be happy. And when you're not, you feel like you're the only person on planet Earth that's miserable. And if you're lacking connection, the holidays are literally like somebody shoving bamboo underneath your fingernails. In prison, people, watch this one. Here's that word. People commit suicide in prison so much more often during the holidays than any other time of year because it's just murder to be away from the people that you care about. At their ages, separation anxiety at the very least, not to mention terror, right? Right around the time they figure out what happened, they're going to wonder every single time that the door gets jingled if someone's coming in to shoot who's ever taking care of them now. People snap way more over the holidays. They do. They also relapse way more over the holidays. We had a similar case in New Zealand called the Lundy case. He bludgeoned his wife and daughter to death, drove an hour and a half to do it. Was it 8 years after the fact, though, Georgie? Because that's what blows me away on this. Honest to God, like, how much of a freak do you have to be holding that pissed off for 8 years and maybe at year 3 not go, maybe I ought to go see a therapist. What do you think? Right? Maybe I ought to go talk to somebody about this because obviously I've got some unresolved shit from my first marriage. To me, I don't know. I'm not saying I don't think this guy did it. I'm saying I want to know why. Like, I need to hear more about this. The reason that this case is going to be one that I chase down is I absolutely, they were a beautiful couple too. They really were, man. What was the case that made F. Lee Bailey famous about a doctor who murdered his wife and lived on a beach? Are you talking about the one that they made the Fugitive on? Right? Doctor, guy that was looking for the one-armed man. Somebody help me. Somebody help me. That's a pretty famous case, but I can't think of the doctor's name. He ended up going into wrestling. He couldn't make a living being a doctor. He ended up going into and becoming a wrestler. It's a terribly sad case. And I don't think anyone really knows whether or not he whacked his wife. Kimball, well played. You get the award. I'm not exactly sure what that award is, but you should get it. Right, that's the one. Yeah, Dr. Kimball. They based the movie with Harrison Ford on it, but that was a real case. And the poor guy ended up literally becoming like a professional wrestler. He was the bad guy, like the heel in professional wrestling. Good movie. It really was. Oh, he was still with his wife. Okay, yeah. I mean, yes, Dr. Richard Kimball. Well played. That's the guy that we were talking about. He did end up becoming a professional wrestler. His life went to shit. He ended up drinking really, really hard. And there's, you know what? I should do a show on that because there's a lot of evidence in both directions. It's a fairly fascinating case. It really is. By the way, a bunch of people have left comments and they want to see me do a show on Carla Homolka and Bernardo. Really a sick case out of Canada. And I did McDonald, Henry. I did Dr. McDonald. He's dying in prison right now as we speak. And he's absolutely going to die in prison. And in my humble opinion, that's where he needs to die. If you want to go back and watch the one I did on it, it's a pretty interesting show. I'll watch Tommy Lee Jones in just about anything. Me too. Thoughts and prayers for him right now. He's going through it. He just lost his daughter. Was Tommy just saw the human heads displayed at Ecuador tourist beach? Oh, no. Don't believe everything you read. Wow, Tommy just saw human heads displayed at Ecuador tourist beach in warning to gangs. Yeah, that is, it's a considerable distance from where I'm at. It's closer to a beach town called Manta. And there has been some drug activity going on there. There is definitely parts of Ecuador, like there are parts of the United States that I wouldn't want to go and spend the night outside. But where I live, like this is the Hamptons. This is like the Miami Beach of South America. The Bernardo case is sick. It's one of the grossest cases in history, but it is very, very interesting. And a lot of people want me to do it. And the good thing is I followed that case. It's one of the other ones that really, yes. Well, no, there's definitely killings up there. There are definitely things that are going on up there, just Joan, and the government is cracking down on it. But I think that's probably a little blown out of proportion. That guy in Pennsylvania been digging up and collecting body parts to sell. Covered that one too. That is a fascinating case, right? In fact, go and watch that too. That's a very interesting. I've got pictures of the he and a couple of other guys that have been busted for that recently. There's a lot of money apparently digging up people's remains and selling them, which is just freaking disturbing, man. Really disturbing, right? That's something that just bums me out, that there are people out there willing to go and steal hundreds of corpses, right, of loved ones, of people that think that someone's going in to rest, and it's just disturbing as shit. It really is. Something very macabre about that. All right, people, I'm going to wrap this puppy up. Please check in with me tomorrow. If you have not hit the subscribe button, well, you better, because you don't know how many times I'm going to go live tomorrow. It's going to be true crime all throughout January. There's a lot going on in the true crime universe. If you hit the bell for notification, it won't matter when I go live because you're going to hear about it. Make sure you hit all. If you just hit the bell for notification, you got to hit all. I put up a lot of content. All right. That'll get you haunted. If you look at the pictures of the people, let me see if I got one of them up here. Hold on a second. Just for yits and giggles. Let's see if I still got this up. That would be the guy you're talking about right there. That's a handsome cuss, isn't he? That is the gentleman that has been accused, and he did it. He's already copping to it, that he was stealing this stuff and selling it. And here's the other guy that was doing the same thing. That's Jeremy Paul. You know what? Couple of good-looking dudes, right? I know what you're thinking right now. I got a daughter of dating age. I wonder if I could hook her up with one of these two. Look, I'm not one of those conspiracy guys, but tell me, if I had to say to you, who do you think they might worship, right? If you went out on a limb, Mr. One of my eyes I had tattooed black, right? And I have horns sticking out of my head. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he's not a Muslim. He's not a Christian. He's not a Hare Krishna. I know it sounds like the old satanic panic stuff, but these ghouls are literally out there stealing bodies and selling them. I don't know. Who could it be? Satan? Remember the church lady? For satanic rituals. Well, some of it absolutely is. Some of the stuff, well played. Well played. Well played. Well played. The church lady. Always got a really good kick out of the church lady. All right, people, I'm going to go and start doing research because I got a bunch of stuff I got to bring you tomorrow too. And I will be chasing it down. This is your one-stop shop for true crime. Sadly, business is good. I'm Tommy. I hope to see all of you tomorrow. Hit that subscribe button. If you don't, it will hurt my feelings. And between now and the next time I see you, put a little love in your heart and hit that damn subscribe button. I'm Tommy. See you on the next one. Have a good night. God bless.